Something, though, that you seem to be stressing is how AI can really positively impact our long-term futures and the long-term future of the human race. But forgetting for a moment this major existential problem, you did indicate that AI is causing job displacement, but perhaps, we can make use of that and deploy people elsewhere. But the problem seems to be that, or one problem seems to be, that AI seems poised to take a lot of the jobs that we want people to have. For instance, artists or graphic designers, these sorts of people. And it's not really taking the jobs that people don't want to do, like cleaning toilets.
I think there is a slight misunderstanding of what it means to be an artist. I come from an artist family. The purpose of art is to capture conscious states. Of course, you also want to be able to feed your family, but art is not a job, right? It's an aesthetic. It's a way to interact with reality. And at the moment, there is no conscious state that AI would capture that is interesting. The AI is a complicated brush that is similar to CGI in the first generation. We have not learned how to wield it yet. And you could argue that CGI made a lot of jobs obsolete that you would want to keep in the special effects industry. But empirically, that's not true. Right? It did make some techniques more rare, but it also enabled vastly more special effects and also jobs for people making special effects. It changed the way in which we make movies. And the first generation of CGI was arguably garish and ugly and not very artistic. But once people learned how to use it, it's now blending in, it's enabled new forms of artistic expression, and it's clearly a net positive. A similar thing was happening with desktop publishing. When I was young, I was very interested in typography. And then desktop publishing came along and everybody could do typesetting. Right? Most of that typesetting was arguably horrible compared to really good typesetting. But arguably before that, there was very little typesetting in the world and most people were just writing on typewriters or writing by hand. It also looked horrible. And so gradually we got a culture of electronic typesetting that now made sure that everything that we see is typeset and layouted in a way that was possible in the past. It would have been way too expensive and created enormous amounts of jobs for people that before that were working at a level below that. So basically every technology that we're building that is replacing one level of mental activity is not closing this up, but it allows people to move one level above. Right? So when you were before somebody who is nominally an artist, but is actually just animating stuff for Disney in a very boring way. Right? It's just producing output by pushing weights around in a 3D model, is now moving on the level of an art director and can design scenes. And most of this automatic pushing around can be left to a machine, and you only go in there when you want to change an expression. And you actually have time and resources to do this because you're now freed up, no longer doing the mechanical part of this. And so what the LLM is currently doing, or the diffusion model is doing, is in some sense it produces an artifact that before would require enormous amount of training in a human artist. But it's not necessarily producing something of artistic output, because for that you still need the taste and the intention of the human artist. And the human artists are just beginning to learn how these tools to be intentional with them. And in the meantime, it just produces the shiny, pretty form. But if you as an artist feel that your artist, the audience is preferring the output of a statistical pattern generator over yours, maybe the problem is not the statistical pattern generator, but it's the relationship that you have to your audience. I don't think that as an artist, you are entitled to work of your art because there is already more art on the planet than any reasonable person can consume, right? Magnitudes more, and always has been. To self-actualize as an artist has always been a privilege. But we can extend this privilege to more and more people every year because it's so much cheaper to deal with the necessities of life. Food, housing, clothing, and so on. We can automate all these things to a larger and larger degree. And so I think the issue is much more allocation and designing the incentives in a changing system, which has always been hard. And nothing takes this away from us, this difficulty. But I'm personally not worried about the ability of a system to write texts that I could also write, because it frees me from the necessity to writing these texts and focusing on the things that the system cannot do.